Hola, bienvenidos a M2. Hoy tenemos un programa de muchas fantasías. Ivette Salgado.
Qué fantasía, Susi. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, muy bien. Contenta de que la que vas a traer tú a la mesa ya se estrenó y que la que yo traigo en este momento se estrena este 5, o sea, ya.
Exactamente.
Y estamos hablando de Beetlejuice y...
Los Anillos de Poder.
¿Por qué vienen juntas? Pues porque la verdad hay más contenidos que vida. Así que vamos rápidamente a la entrevista exclusiva que tuvimos, muy breve entrevista, pero muy gozosa, con Beetlejuice, o sea, Michael Keaton. Él estuvo ya y lo estuvimos platicando, Ivette, en el Festival de Cine Venecia, dio conferencia de prensa aquí, han estado en Nueva York, han estado por todos lados.
Exactamente.
Pero esta fue de las primeras entrevistas que dio al respecto y buscamos que no fuera la clásica entrevista. Así que, Michael Keaton, adelante.
No existen los fantasmas. Nada más los ingenuos creen esa estupidez.
No puedo creer que voy a hacer esto. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. ¿Puedes ayudarme a salvar a mi hija? ¿Cómo me aseguro de que cumplirás?
Por el alma de mi madre, lo juro.
You know, the Beetlejuice is a movie that I think we used to remember who we were when we saw it, and when we see it again, we do that.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, my job's different from yours. All you have to do is look at it. I have to actually be him. So, yeah, I mean, it took a bit, you know, I made sure I watched the movie again before we started working on the second one. And I don't know how I'd have done it had I not watched it again. But then once we started, we just kind of clicked right back in.
Because you improvise a lot, right?
You always do in these kind of things, but we created a lot, and the movie gets improvised. You know, Tim is also adapt what it's going to look like, and then you can improvise, but inside that, you know, and then he'll adjust a little bit, but basically, you know, you're working inside his frames.
Absolutely. I know you're a newspaper man because you post a lot of clips. So,
Yeah.
So as a newspaper person, I thank you for that.
Oh yeah, I know. I worry that newspapers are going to disappear. Yeah.
You said that, you said it in Spotlight, but that you would have also been a journalist.
Yeah. I took one course and I thought, I'd have a lot of questions. Like, where do you come from? You know, from what time are you? You know, what happens to you when we don't see you? You know, yeah. And can you get me tickets to Beetlejuice?
Bueno, pues ya, el 5 de septiembre, o sea, ya pueden ver Beetlejuice, una secuela que cumple. Los fans creo que van a estar muy contentos.
Y ver a Michael Keaton, a Jenna Ortega integrándose y a todos los que formaron parte de esa primera historia.
Está muy padre. Pero hablando de precuelas, Los Anillos del Poder, mi querida.
Exactamente, Susi, una gran historia también porque, pues si bien la primera temporada iba un poquito lenta porque nos estaban presentando personajes y reinos y todo lo que tiene que ver con el universo de Tolkien, pues para esta segunda temporada ya vienen absolutamente con todo el poder, porque además, pues ya el villano, que sabemos que es Sauron en toda esta saga, ya se reveló y ya viene la guerra y ya vienen todas esas escenas que los fans seguramente también están esperando. Y el elenco estuvo presente aquí en México para hablar justamente de esta historia y en particular la parte política de la historia de Tolkien, Susi, porque todo es estrategia,
claro,
y todo tiene que ver también con la planeación de...
A ver.
Que no te vas a detener hasta destruirlo.
El perdón tarda una era.
Necesito tu hacha, viejo amigo.
¡Luchen conmigo! ¡Luchen con nuestros amigos!
Pero cuando la oscuridad cae, habrá quienes quieran levantarse.
This story is amazing for many reasons, but it is a portrait of good and evil, politics and power, and how it affects us. So, what do you take away from a story like this as an actor? I mean,
I think you're right. It's a story about the corruption of how power can corrupt, and I think that's a big Tolkien thing too. He returns to it a lot, and certainly as I said earlier, you know, you see him being pulled towards something, trying to resist, and that happens across all of Middle Earth as well. You see people grappling with trying to overcome the evil that is spreading throughout the whole of Middle-earth, because now Sauron is unmasked. His web is starting to be spread across the whole of Middle-earth.
Yeah, in this part of the story, your characters are facing so many things and so many challenges. Your character is blind, and your character is going to be the support for her. So, how was that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, the main aspect to their relationship at the end of season 1 and coming into season 2 is the trust. And trust built on shared grief, shared loss, shared experience. Season 2, there's this really beautiful evolution of they trust each other in a time when there are very few people around them that they are able to trust, or at least, you know, in a way that they could before. So it's really sort of pushes their relationship, and ultimately they both have their individual journeys and individual challenges that ultimately they do have to face alone.
It is also a portrait of good and evil. It is a portrait of power and politics. So what do you take away from a story like this?
How the effects of power, the effects of how all of us are subject to this idea of the fall from Eden, the loss of innocence, but the fact that ego and pride will push you to make the wrong decision.
I also think with politics, you know, I love the sort of political intrigue of Numenor, but I also think the politics are personal. You know, it really is about your personal belief, your personal view of what direction you think society should go in. And so it goes deeper than just a political belief. It's really about this is my worldview.
Me encanta cuando ya entramos a la materia de estas historias, porque siempre es un reflejo de nuestra sociedad en un mundo de fantasía.
Exacto.
Y creo que si alguien lo vio claramente en su momento fue Tolkien.
Y lo dice el elenco claramente, ¿no? Esta parte de cómo funcionamos en sociedad y cómo el poder nos corrompe y cómo todo cambia a raíz de los anillos, está muy relacionado con lo que vivimos.
Con lo que somos. No, nada que ver. Oye, pero además el acercamiento de todos ellos a Tolkien, me platicabas, fue gran parte de la conversación.
Está padrísima esta parte, porque ¿cuál fue tu momento con Tolkien, por ejemplo, Susi?
Mi papá regalándome el Hobbit cuando era muy joven para entender de qué demonios me estaba hablando, pero leyendo el Hobbit con mi papá, y es una experiencia que nunca voy a olvidar.
Exactamente, y a todos nos ha marcado de alguna forma, y al elenco también, y esto es justamente de lo que nos hablan.
This is a story that thousands of people love because they are or read the books or watch the movies, now the series. So I would like you to tell me what was your first encounter with Tolkien and his universe. So please, India.
For me, it was the films. It was Peter Jackson's films, and I'd seen them many years ago. And so when I was first approached and got to audition for this series, in my mind, I thought, well, where do I fit into this story? You know, what type of character is it going to be? And I was excited because I felt like if you're going to bring the Lord of the Rings, you know, into the here and now, into the present day, I feel like you have a responsibility really to present Middle Earth the way the Earth is. I can see myself, and I get to represent myself and my culture and my family and people I know in this story.
I mean, specifically about when I was first introduced to Tolkien, I was like 11 years old, and I read The Hobbit. It was the first book I'd read on my own, and I obviously hadn't read anything like it, and it still stuck with me, the imagery there, and then seeing the films and reading some of the books. But then coming to this project, all of a sudden it was all about the Second Age, and that was brand new to me, and the Silmarillion and things that Tolkien had written. I
think for me it was reading The Hobbit. When I was probably 7 years old. Perhaps I read it at school. I can't remember who introduced me to it, but I was very captivated by it. And I think it's just about Tolkien. I think it's to do with the struggle of the underdog. I think that's his sort of backbone throughout all his novels, and I think that's what makes them so popular.
But my introduction was the Peter Jackson trilogy, the movies, and then I think since then I just sort of, when I got this job, I just delved into the books, and they're fascinating and much different in a way, because my interpretation of Tolkien was sort of shaped by the films in the way that yours was kind of done in reverse. You had a world, you had an interpretation of it, and then the movies are interpretation it's its own thing, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And then it brings us onto this show, which
That's
is
a very good point.
its own interpretation as well. And I think, in a way, that the movies were a gateway for me. I hope that this show is going to be a gateway to other young people watching the show.
Absolutely.
You know.
Me encanta que además estos elencos, ambos estuvieron en México. Y
La misma semana.
La misma semana. Con la misma
Casi
agencia.
que el mismo día.
Con la misma agencia que les volvieron locos. Saludos, amigos. Pero la verdad es que México ya es una de las primeras paradas para los eventos cinematográficos y televisivos más importantes del mundo y lo celebramos, ¿no?
Con todo y bombo y platillo, porque la verdad es que vale la pena todo lo que han traído y está más por venir. Así que, pues bueno, aquí una probadita.
Ahí lo tenemos. Gracias, Ivette.
Gracias, Susi.
Y gracias a todos ustedes por acompañarnos. Hasta pronto.